Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. I'm Dennis Fields, and today we're going to be showing you guys how to save money with the most expensive ingredient that you have in your beer, the yeast. I'm going to go through how to reuse your Trub and save your yeast from batch to batch. After you guys hit that like and subscribe button, grab yourself a beer, and we're going to get after it. Also, if you want to be super awesome, you can become a channel member. You'll get exclusive recipes, content, and you'll get these videos early as a channel member. So hit that join button below and be awesome. Yeast is easily, by volume anyway, one of the most expensive things that you have to buy for your brew day. And so in this case, we're going to show you how you can easily reuse that Trub, and that is by simply racking another beer on top of that Trub after you finish. I'm going to show you the process that I would use on how to transfer that Trub to a different fermenter, so you also have all of those healthy yeast cells that are ready to go to ferment your next beer. So let's talk about when you would actually use this. In this case, I'm going from a Pilsner to a Vienna lager. Both are very low in the amount of hops, and one is considerably lighter beer than the Vienna lager, which will have a little bit more of an amber color. That doesn't matter as much, but I wouldn't use a porter, for instance, and then go to a lighter pale ale. I also wouldn't use something that's very, very hoppy first, like an IPA or a double IPA that has ounces and ounces and ounces of hops, and then go to brew something that is very, very light on the IBU scale, like an ESB. You're going to transfer some of those hops and you may get some grassier flavors. Instead, brew those lighter styles first and then plan on brewing those other styles like an IPA, where you are going to add more hops, second. Because again, we're not rinsing and washing the yeast here, we're reusing all of the Trub, which means everything that fell out, the proteins and all of the particles and stuff, those are going to be transferred into the next beer. That's not going to hurt your beer whatsoever, because those will also fall out in your second beer. But you don't want some of those grassier flavors from the hop materials that are in there from the first beer to get into your second beer. So the first thing we need to do is transfer our first beer into a keg and get that nice thick Trub bottom. Our Pilsner's sitting at about 55 degrees. After giving it diacetyl rest, I bumped it back down, and that'll help kind of solidify that Trub on the bottom. We're gonna get that transferred into a keg. Then we're going to be decanting as much of that old spent beer off. I'm gonna try to get as much in the keg, but if I can't, I'll pour just a little tiny bit out into a sink if I need to. But we're gonna try to leave just a little tiny bit, only for the fact that we need to rouse up and reuse that Trub at the bottom, and we don't wanna have to have it like sand and gritty, so we do want it to become kind of liquidy so we can pour it into our next vessel. Alternatively, you could just leave it in the same fermenter, but I like to start with a clean fermenter because it's just peace of mind for myself that it's going into something that's clean and ready to go. One thing to mention, it's very important to make sure that you're getting your wort down below 80 degrees before you pitch that wort on top of the Trub. And the reason is because a lager yeast like I'm using starts dying off at about 80 degrees. Also, you'll start getting some really bad off flavors and things. 70 degrees isn't terrible, but the colder you can get it, the better. The 60s is preferable for pitching for a lager yeast and then letting the rest of that cool down in your fermentation chamber. But if you can get it down to regular temperatures in the 50s, that's even better. For ales, you'll want to make sure that they're in the lower 70s, if not in the 60s as well, just to make sure that you're not getting those off flavors. If you have a really healthy yeast and it starts taking off really soon, you could get off flavors from stressed yeast being super, super hot. So for right now, to cool mine down, I have it in my fermentation chamber, my whole kettle, because I already have the yeast in my fermenter. So I threw my kettle, and it was actually just above 80 degrees. I'm gonna leave that in there for a little while just to cool down. Then I'm gonna transfer it out of there on top of the Trub. The reason I'm doing that is to make sure that I'm not gonna kill those yeast right off the bat. And because I use a strainer while I'm pouring it into my fermenter, it oxidizes at the same time, which is really good for yeast health. So what if you want to save that Trub, but you're not going to be brewing on the day that you're transferring your first beer? Well, an option is saving those in some sanitized mason jars like this one. What I do is I sanitize these large mason jars. I go ahead and I pour that Trub in here and I fill it up all the way. Then what I do is I loosely put on this cap so it can burp out some gases but doesn't suck back in oxygen. And you'll see that Trub kind of separate in this jar. When you go to use it then, you'll kind of decant off or pour off some of that old spent beer that's on the top, and then you'll pitch in the Trub in your next batch. You can leave this in the refrigerator for about 4 weeks, but after that, I'd really start thinking of making a new starter or making a starter out of this one. The yeast can die off after time, and that will give you that stressed yeast flavor, a kind of homebrew flavor in your beer, and you don't want that. So try to use that Trub within 4 weeks. The sooner the better. All right, guys, I hope that helped, and I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions and comments, please, again, leave them in the video description below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. Happy brewing, and cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. You're awesome. You want to be even more awesome? Hit that join button and become a member. You'll get exclusive members-only recipes and other perks like Brew Day sheets, and watch my videos early as they drop before anyone else. So hit that join button below, become a member, and be awesome.